with apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies from Councillor.
Thank you.
Apologies from Councillor Bushman and Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest this evening? Item 3 is to correct as a record. To approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 26th of July, I've got, but it's not then, was it? September 27th, I believe it was. Yes. Sorry.
I'd like to move those minutes, Madam Mayor, in both July and September.
Thank you. I think we did those, didn't we? Right. Be a seconder?
I would like to second them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All in agreement with that? Thank you. Thank you. That's unanimous. Oh, that page, sorry, I think it's upside down. Well, councillors, I do hope you'll agree that was a lovely way to this evening hear those children. I really did think one of them on the front row kept scowling as she sang and with the antlers. She might have charged any time, but we got away with it. Anyway, since the last council meeting, I have represented the borough at 29 events, 9 of which were to commemorate this special year in our remembrance of World War I and the sacrifices that were made for us then. Across the borough and here in the Civic Centre, there were many remarkable displays. The crosses on the croquet lawn in West Bridgford and in the foyer here, together with the thousands of poppies in the church at Cockgrave, were particularly poignant reminders of such a devastating time. Other events are very varied, from enjoying the amusements at Goose Fair at the invitation of the Lord Mayor of Nottingham, to last evening when I was again in the city at St Mary's Church in the Lace Market. My charity, the Nottinghamshire Hospice, organised a service there called Light Up a Life. And we were invited to light candles in remembrance of loved ones who sadly have passed away. But to finish on a more cheerful note, I hope I've not missed anyone out in thanking people for the tremendous support for my celebrity charity evening, where the auctioneer Charles Hanson, not known for his timekeeping, finally arrived and made a great success of the evening. I have since attended the filming of the Christmas edition in a private capacity, I must say, of Bargain Hunt, for the BBC, where I successfully bid for an item, and it should be appearing when it is broadcast later this month.
Good.
Thank you. You must tell us when. Thank you. Item 5, leaders' announcements. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to just like your comments about the excellent entertainment and the scowling of them, but also some members as well, but we won't go into that. Madam Mayor, I'd just like to start my leads of announcements just to just announce that he always gives a lot of praise to his staff, but I think tonight I'd just like to recognise the Chief Executive, who yesterday was awarded the Institute Director's Diploma. So I think that was a very excellent achievement, and it goes underline the commercialism in which this council has taken. So a big congratulations to the Chief Executive. You can tell he actually hates being praised. He's always good at praising other people, but he's always on the background when there's something about him. So I'm glad we could announce that tonight. Madam Mayor, I'd also just like to recognise the awards ceremony. I know a number of members were there, last week at the Beckett School. It was an absolutely fantastic evening, and to see the breadth of talent, of volunteers, of communities and businesses in Rushcliffe was absolutely fantastic. It was a wonderful event. We revamped it this year, and everybody unanimously said what a wonderful event, and the Mayor did a very good job there in presenting those awards.
Thank you.
So very well done on that side. So, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to also mention, as we saw a few weeks ago, we announced our proposals for a crematorium. Obviously this is subject to planning, etc., but I would ask sort of members to engage and ask communities to engage. It's a very, very important part of the borough's facilities, and engagement is very important as we move forward. I'd also, Madam Mayor, just to also mention about the Cotgrave Hub that we opened a few weeks ago. This has been an incredible journey lasting over 10 years. For those who don't know, this has cost quite a few £1 million. It's brought the police, the libraries, the GPs, the contact centre together. When we were there a few weeks ago, I know that certainly Christine and Richard and Andrew were there as well. I mean, absolutely fantastic. And what an incredible journey it's been. And I think it really is something very special for Cotgrave. And this is only phase 1. And I'm absolutely delighted that we've been able to deliver that, and looking forward to phase 2 on that. Madam Mayor, I also would like to just mention a few points from the budget, just seen quite a few weeks ago. But hopefully those who picked up on their budget, there was actually a number of very, very important announcements there for the benefits of Rushcliffe. Number 1, of course, was the £70 million that's been allocated for the Defence and National Rehabilitation Centre, and this is going to be for the civic side. So that is a huge announcement by the Chancellor, and we're absolutely delighted that £70 million has been allocated. And what an incredible boost of confidence in Rushcliffe. So absolutely delighted on that side. Also, a number of other announcements in the budgets, and again relating to Rushcliffe. One in particular I've just been talking about was the business rate relief, which is actually going to have a very positive impact on over 300 businesses in Rushcliffe. Also on the housing side, that the limit for the first-time buyers relief has gone up to 500,000. The Housing Infrastructure Fund, an extra 500 million, which should enable an extra 50,000 houses, 650,000 houses, and also new partnerships with housing associations, which should deliver over 13,000 affordable houses. Now, as we are the leading authority in delivering affordable houses, I think that's an excellent boost, and we're absolutely delighted to see that in the budget for our residents of Rushcliffe. And finally, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to point everyone out, this is an important document that I believe the Chief Executive has actually emailed to everybody, the link to this. This is the future of local government that will be going in front of the County Council next Thursday, I believe. It is very important, obviously, that as members of Rushcliffe, we also engage with that. And obviously, from that vote, it will depend on how actually this goes forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Item 6, the Chief Executive's announcements, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to the leader. He's stole my thunder in some ways and embarrassed me in a way. But
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Madam Mayor, whether you wore a blue or a red. Isn't that the one where they wear a jersey or something? That doesn't matter. It's fine. Anyway, not that I watch these things. I'm never there to do it. But if I may indulge myself after a magnificent 12 years of being here and working with some great talent in the organisation. That's why I stole my thunder. I just wanted to recognise through my Chief Executive announcements tonight a number of teams that have been working tirelessly over the last few months. I think the displays that were done for the remembrance celebrations, both here and in West Bridgford and around the borough, was down to a lot of hard work in the community services team. And then I think the leader would agree with me, and the members that were present at the community awards last week, the success of that, and again the community services team worked tirelessly to make that happen. And then tonight, I've been reflecting over the last week. This room has been a marvellous room to be able to hold the facility of the inquiry for our local plan part 2. And I'm not going to comment on that. But the organisation in keeping this room in its place and changing it round, being ready for tonight, for example, is down to the dedicated facility staff that we have who work so hard for us. And I just wanted to use this evening just to say, certainly on my part, and record formally how grateful I know the members are and that we are. And then finally, Madam Mayor, as it's customary at this time of year, I think it's important that it's my last opportunity, in case I don't get to do it personally, on behalf of all the staff of Rushcliffe Borough Council, to wish all members a peaceful and I hope relaxing Christmas. And I pray for strength for all those members in 2019 as we all enter uncertain times. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 7, citizens' questions. No questions have been submitted. We move to item 8, statement of principles. Councillor Robinson to move, please.
No, it's Councillor Mason.
Councillor Mason.
It's Councillor Mason.
Got the old one.
Thank you. Don't part with those, they're mine. Thank you. Councillor Mason then.
Thank you. I'm not quite as tall as Councillor Robinson, but I can pack a punch. This is about the statement of principles relating to the Gambling Act of 2005. As a licensing authority, the Council must review and publish its statement of principles every 3 years. The Council adopted the last statement in 2015, so this will come into effect on January the 2nd, 2019. Just a minute. This draft document has been consulted with businesses, responsible authorities, current licence holders and members of the Alcohol and Entertainment's Licensing Committee, who has supported and referred this document to Council for approval. The revised statement has also been received by the Nottinghamshire Authorities Licensing Group, which means there is consistency across the county. There has been some changes to bring it in line with best practice framework from the LGA and also in line with recent changes to government legislation. There is a list of consultees on page 45 of the council papers and no concerns were expressed. This document is key to helping to prevent licensed premises from being a source of crime and disorder and many other things that we do not wish in this borough. But I would wish to thank the Alcohol and Entertainment Licensing Committee for bringing forward this document, as well as the officers that worked on it. I therefore move the recommendation that the Statement of Principles be approved with effect from January the 2nd, 2019 until the year 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, second, please.
I'd like to second the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And reserve the right to speak if required.
Councillor Chewings, I understand you're...
Yeah, sure. Councillor Chewings to speak.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to say that I sit on this committee and the document is very fit for purpose. Very minimal changes have been made to this document, which just proves that it is absolutely fine, and we, the Labour Group, support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mallender.
Thank you very much. Yes, the Green Group also happy to support this. The Alcohol and Entertainment Committee don't meet all that often. I know, cushy number, yeah. And these are sort of relatively small updates to the document, but it is important to many of the facilities, many of the bars and pubs around the borough, so heartily recommend your acceptance. Thank you.
There are no other speakers. Councillor Mason, do you wish to...
Yes, thank you very much for your support. I suppose it's a bit like buses. You get one item and tonight you've got 2 items have come along, so thank you.
Well, we'll go to the vote on the first one. All in favour, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous, thank you. Item 9 is the statement of licensing policy, which Councillor Mason to move again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The current state of licensing policy was adopted first of all in 2014, coming back from 2003. As a licensing authority, the Council must review and publish this policy every 5 years. Following the review, a small number of minor changes were made. As before, consultation must be carried out, which is determined that there were no further comments or changes. Then it went to the Alcohol and Entertainment Licensing Committee to review and refer to it and refer it to Council. So thank you again to them. This statement of policy states how the Council will exercise its authority. This policy will also help to protect children and vulnerable persons and safeguard them. Working with partners, building good working relationships with licence holders and designated premise supervisors, and while providing them with advice on safeguarding and other licensing issues. It is also about working with partners to prevent crime, disorder, nuisance, while taking public safety into account. I therefore move the recommendation that the Statement of Licensing Policy be approved with effect from January the 2nd, 2019.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
I would like to second this again, and I think it's John said it last time, having reserved the right to speak. I would just like to make one comment, and that is that this policy, as opposed to all the previous ones, actually looks at the public health of our residents. And the policy is trying to minimise the effects of alcohol and gambling on the mental health and well-being of our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chewings, please.
Thank you. This is a very important document, and I think it's great that it is looked at every so many years to make sure that it's still fit for purpose, it still does the job, and this does exactly that as well. And again, we the Labour Group are quite happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other speakers? Councillor Mason?
That's fine.
Right, thank you. So we'll go to the vote. All in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Monday.
Unanimous, thank you. Item 10, notice of motion, put by Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just read this motion very quickly. Over recent months, the Labour-controlled Nottingham City Council have made it very clear that in any local government reorganisation, they will petition the government to ensure that the City Council absorb West Bridgford amongst other district areas within their city boundaries. To support the above, the City Council will surely be commencing a public engagement exercise across Rushcliffe and 3 other districts. In response to this action by Nottingham City Council, Rushcliffe Borough Council firmly believes that for the future prosperity and quality of life of West Bridgford residents and businesses, that West Bridgford should remain and be seen as an essential part of the Rushcliffe administrative boundaries. In addition, with any local government review, the whole of Rushcliffe area should be considered in its entirety without fragmentation. Madam Mayor, why have we brought this motion tonight? Well, this narrative, as I look, has been around since 2006 about city aspirations to become Greater Nottingham and absorbed much of its territories within the city. But as many of you will have seen, the rhetoric has really been stepped up over the last sort of 6 months to the last year. Personally, I've had meetings with Councillor Collins, the leader of Nottingham City, who I respect, who has made it absolutely clear his aspiration to put the city up to 520,000 people. The other reason why this motion tonight is pertinent, as it says in the motion, that he has decided to commence an engagement exercise across Rushcliffe without any engagement with us at all. So this has been purely done by the City Council to talk to our residents and talk to our businesses. That, in fact, has already started and will last 5 weeks. Thirdly, Madam Mayor, why this motion, and most important for me, is that I have now a lot of emails, letters, and indeed I've even been stopped in the street to ask what is our response to this very, very public statement by the city that they would like West Bridgford to be part of the city itself. Now, there are the reasons, Madam Mayor, why I've brought this motion tonight. Let me just state and quote the Labour Party statement on this. Places like West Bridgford, which almost everyone thinks of as part of the city. Repeat that. West Bridgford, which almost everyone thinks as part of the city. And there really is the core of what this motion is about. Now, when I speak to various leaders around the country, and indeed as I spoke in various cities, you would think that actually a lot of suburban areas would be quite pleased to be absorbed by the city when you speak about places like Leeds and Sheffield and Newcastle. They're delighted to be part of the city for things like funding and for more resources, etc. But so when we look at this proposition from the city, which by the way has been drafted, and I have seen the maps and all the supporting information behind it, you start to break it down and look at it. What are the benefits then for West Bridgford in this? Let's think about the schools. What are the schools like in the city? Oh, that's right. Some of the worst outputs of any authority in the whole of England. About 150 out of 151. That's the schools in the city. What about businesses? Oh, that's right. Working place levy. How well is that done for business? You will pay taxes to park your car. What about the losses that the City Council have incurred in its operating businesses, such as Robin Hood Energy, £8 million, the tram, £52 million, over £60 million of taxpayers' money lost on traded entities run by our friends, the Labour Party, over at the city. What about the finances? How good are they? Oh, that's right, you would need a big hike in your council tax, because Rushcliffe is the lowest council tax in anywhere in the county. So yes, you'd have to put the council tax up. What about the finances within the city itself? Over £900 million in debt as a city council. You hear that figure? Over £900 million. Forecast to go to over £1 billion by the outturn in March. I don't know about you, but I am absolutely aghast that a local authority can be run and amass this sort of debt. And I would question what the Section 151 officer thinks about that. Because that actual debt, ladies and gentlemen, turns to over £50 million worth of interest payments. Nearly £1 million a week is going out of the city purely to pay the interests on that debt. What about the city centre? All right. Voted now one of the worst retail experiences anywhere in the UK. And I quote, lacking ambition, lacking vision, and a total lack of delivery. I actually walked through the city today. I am appalled, absolutely appalled and embarrassed to even be associated with the city of Nottingham and the way it stands at the moment. Oh, by the way, it costs you £18 to park your car as well for that experience. What about social and health outcomes? Once again, some of the worst anywhere in the UK. And indeed, the last few weeks been reported one of the worst alcohol issues in the city at the moment as well, of any major city in the UK. And of course, in terms of the council itself, it's just recently announced over 200 redundancies. Yeah, cutting services, 200 staff to go. Recently, just been revealed, it's just lost a Supreme Court decision. It went all the way to Supreme Court to avoid paying some of its staff a pay rise going back to 2011, affecting over 600 members of staff. The very staff who were projected to support West Bridgford. And let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, do you know how much that has cost in legal fees? £300,000 of taxpayers' money has been spent on that legal case out of the budget to protect the city that has now been deemed has now been lost. Well, by the way, has anyone been in the Market Square recently and seen the lovely banners about cuts? They cost thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money to put political messages in the Market Square. You could put them in West Bridgford in the future, couldn't they? Look very good, wouldn't they, on Central Avenue? All political ideology. So, members, ladies and gentlemen, why would businesses and residents of West Bridgford want to join this city? This motion is a very clear message to the City Council that West Bridgford belongs to Rushcliffe, first and foremost. I move this motion, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mason to second, please.
And I wish to second the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Can reserve the right to speak.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, who? Edwards. Councillor Edwards. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. There's nothing new about Nottingham City Council wanting to include West Bridgford in its boundaries. Indeed, the part of West Bridgford close to Trent Bridge, including the City Ground and the Trent Bridge Inn, were part of the city up to 1936. It's only since 1952 that the boundary between West Bridgford and the city was set down the middle of the River Trent. These periodic skirmishes have helped to define West Bridgford as having its own distinct identity. But most of its population look to the city for work, shopping and leisure. For these reasons, the City Council's ambitions are understandable and not unreasonable. However, last week the City Council made a number of things clear. At this point, I think Councillor Robinson's got a different set of information than I have, because I looked at the City Council's press statement that was reported on West Bridgford Wire last week, and it varies in some ways from what Councillor Robinson has just said. What was in that press statement was that, firstly, the city would look at any proposals for change centring on Gedling and Broxtowe. The Broxtowe one is obvious in terms of the links with Derby, the metro scheme, HS2 at Towton and so on. Secondly, that any redrawing of boundaries would be based on entire districts, and that's important because that's also the legal position. Thirdly, and my understanding, it wouldn't be pursuing the West Bridgford option because it doesn't fit with those. And finally, the City Council was fundamentally opposed to the creation of a single unitary, a super council for the rest of Nottinghamshire, and as if this were to proceed, the city would vigorously oppose it. And I suspect, Madam Mayor, we're at the beginnings of that scenario. One effect of the City Council's decision is to recognise that without West Bridgford, the other towns and villages in Rushcliffe would lack any focal point. You only have to glance at a map to see that, with the exception of the Fosse Way, all roads in Rushcliffe lead to West Bridgford. The A52 from Grantham, the 606 from Melton, the A60 from Loughborough, the 453 from Birmingham. But let us be clear, local government reorganisation this time round has not been started by the City Council. It is solely down to the County Council. We would not be here tonight, Madam Mayor, debating this if it weren't for the County Council trying to increase its power at the expense of the county's 7 districts. The Rushcliffe MP, Ken Clark, has said he's not persuaded by the County Council's proposals, and that most people south of the river identify much more closely with us, with Rushcliffe Borough Council, than with Nottinghamshire County Council. The County Council's plans pose a direct threat to the existence of the Borough Council, the council we've all been elected to. There are, however, some borough councillors, Councillor Robinson, on your side, who wear two hats, who are also sitting at County Hall and directly seeking to end our Borough Council. During this debate, it would be nice to hear from them as to how they reconcile their duty as borough councillors to actively seek to abolish this council when this council, as Councillor Robinson has said, remains financially sound.
Yeah.
What is lacking so far?
Councillor Jones, we are talking about the
Talking about the
city
motion,
proposal. Please, to stick to what the motion is about.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm talking about the motion.
No, you're not.
The motion itself has wider implications. I shall be coming back to West Bridgford. What is lacking so far is any widespread public involvement by either the City Council or the County Council. The days of governments and councils deciding people's local allegiances behind closed doors, as happened earlier this year, are past. Meaningful consultation is needed. So far it's been selected and limited. Back in the 1930s, West Bridgford Urban District Council sent a postcard to every household asking them whether they were for or against proposals for reorganisation. We need to stand ready, and I'm sure the leader will, to undertake a similar consultation. The County Council's detailed proposals, which Councillor Robinson referred to, were only published at tea time.
Right.
And they will need some
Edwards,
searching analysis.
Could you
But tonight we need to
complete
take
now,
a prudent
please?
stand to protect West Bridgford
Thank you. Sorry, your time's
and
up.
Rushcliffe Borough Council.
Right. Thank you.
We can support this motion as we want to retain the integrity of the whole of
Thank you.
Rushcliffe.
Can you hear me? I've just said your time is up.
You've been
I'm
able to sit
sorry.
down.
Thank
We
you.
support the motion.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Jones, you indicated next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would not wish to be associated with Councillor Robinson's attack on the City Council, although some of it may be deserved.
It's facts.
And I agree very much with the previous speaker that we would not be here but for the county's financial problems leading to its attempt to swallow all the boroughs. We will be supporting the motion simply because we think West Bridgford, by and large, has got a unique. However, I will make the point as strongly as I can that West Bridgford has no voice. It has no town council, and given both the county and the city and Rushcliffe lay claim to West Bridgford, I think it is high time that the borough started a process, the due process for looking at the viability of a town council for West Bridgford when so much of the rest of the borough is covered. That way there's more chance of having a voice for West Bridgford. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor S. Mallender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to come to this meeting and overwhelmingly support this motion because I do agree with it. I do agree with a lot of things that have just been said by the last speaker and the one before that. But every year at this time of year, I read Dickens's A Christmas Carol. And one of the quotations from that is, said by the Ghost of Christmas Present, "To hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust. 1/3 of children in the city of Nottingham live in poverty. That's why they are in that situation. We are a very rich area in comparison to Britain, let alone other parts of Nottinghamshire. So I think the sort of things that were said are to do with the poor schools and so on, children that don't have any books, they're hungry, no wonder they don't do very well at school. So although I do overwhelmingly agree with this motion, because I do agree that because the leader of the City Council has very openly said that he wouldn't be pursuing this if the County Council had not decided to become a unitary authority, either one unitary authority or more than one. So that is what set it all off and brought it to the fore. And so we should make sure that we have neither of those things, and then we wouldn't have this problem, and West Bridgford would stay as part of Rushcliffe. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Donoghue.
Thank you. Well, I'm very disappointed that when the leader of the council states facts, that Councillor Jones says that he's attacking the City Council. Since when has evidence been an attack? And I will always defend the truth. So as a Conservative majority borough council, that's what we elected up for here today, I celebrate the fact that we are the top performing council. We've won awards for entrepreneurship and commercial council. And I will not be delving into the 1930s calling cards or the 1950 boundary change to talk about the current demographic of Rushcliffe Borough. I will stay with the facts and the truth, and the facts are never an attack. So I will defend the leader, and I will defend the truth and the evidence that backs the leader up. Rushcliffe Borough Council, and many of us in this room have worked for years to ensure that we're the top performing council. We serve and we are elected here in this room to represent the residents of Rushcliffe Borough. We are not talking about the county council. We're talking about the events and the projects that we've done within the borough that have been extremely successful. Lark in the Park, Proms in the Park, etc. Sorry, I'm talking. Are you talking as well? I'm speaking. I'm supporting the motion and I'm pointing some facts out in relation to that. That is my right. So please don't talk over me.
Councillor Donoghue, though, do keep to the motion,
I support
please.
the motion, and I'd like to just point out a letter I received from a resident of the City Council that, quote, had set about organising events for loneliness out of her own money and had approached the City Council. The City Council, quoted, they struggle to put anything together to combat loneliness. And she wrote to me out of desperation because she spent £600 of her own money. She approached the City Council for help, and they said that it was conditional, that they would have some pictures to showcase so it looks like we're doing something for the community, which of course she refused. And her words are, she was asked in email by the City Council to take down any advertising for this event. And this, may I follow up by saying, who can I write to? This is so sad, and we have such a rubbish City Council and no support.
Thank you,
So I
Councillor.
support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the risk of repeating what has already been said, Nottingham City Council made it very clear that in any government reorganisation, they will petition the government to ensure that the City Council absorb West Bridgford into its boundaries. That said, I for one oppose such a proposal, and I expect the members opposite to do likewise. It's partly an emotional thing. I was born in West Bridgford when ladies in white skirts, blazers and straw hats played croquet on the croquet lawn. And Saturday morning was the sixpenny rush to see Flash Gordon at the Tudor Cinema. I have an affinity to West Bridgford and often asked, have you lived in West Bridgford all your life? To which I reply, not yet. The question I would ask, why would the Labour-controlled City Council want to hijack West Bridgford? Could it be a cynical move against the County Council's unitary ambition? Could it be a council tax revenue receipts and assets grab? After all, they did make a contribution towards it by lumping us with an extra 6,000 homes to build. Thanks very much. It might also help their £1 billion debt. Could it be that West Bridgford, the heart of West Bridgford, I'll repeat that, could it be that West Bridgford, the heart of Rushcliffe, is considered to be one of affluence to bolster the image of the city? Could it be an entrepreneurial council, successful in decision making, investment and collector of national accolades, being the prime mover? Could it be the standard of education in West Bridgford? Only this week, Nottingham City Transport were supporting a scheme for Nottingham schools of Lost Words for Knots, campaigning to improve the literacy in the city. Could it be that the City Ground is not in the city and they would like Trent Bridge Cricket Ground to be in the city? Could it be Rushcliffe has a place to live, work and play, a vibrant society as witnessed at last week's Community Awards, which no doubt the city would like to see divided? Westbridge, I contend, should remain and be seen as an essential part of that vibrant society and of the Rushcliffe administrative boundaries, and not a claim at the behest of John Collins. There are many other could-it-be's, but a word of caution to members who are not West Bridgford councillors. In the event, heaven forbid it, came to pass, where would the rest of Rushcliffe be shunted off to? West Bridgford is emotionally and geographically separated from the city by a stretch of water called the River Trent, a dividing line and a boundary to be respected, and I say, pull up the drawbridge and keep it that way. I am proud to be a West Bridgefordian and would urge everyone in this chamber and residents, not just in West Bridgford, but Rushcliffe as a whole, to reject any takeover attempt by Nottingham City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak at this, but Councillor Edwards raised a point which struck a chord with me. He said, and I quote, any section will be done, any change will be done as whole districts. Now, if that means whole districts, that means that my ward to the far north of the borough would get pulled into the council. I'm not very happy about that thought, because we'd completely disappear. We're fairly anonymous already with the practice in West Bridgford of referring to it as Bridgford, but to be considered to be a remote part of the city would not be all that attractive. So I just thought, actually, if you look at a map of the area, it makes a lot more sense for West Bridgford to take over Wolford and Clifton, so that the boundary runs right along the centre of the river, rather than for the city to be allowed to predate over the River Trent boundary. I'd studied in Nottingham in the early 1960s. We had brown buses coming from West Bridgford into the Market Square, and they were the only ones allowed back only over Trent Bridge. If I caught the number 5 trolley bus from the university to go and watch a football match, I had to get off at the roundabout just above the circulatory system, just north of the bridge, and walk over, because that's all that West Bridgford Urban District Council would let in. That's how committed people were then to West Bridgeford as opposed to the city. I see no evidence that there's any less committed. So, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the motion.
Councillor Plant, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I certainly wasn't going to speak at all because obviously Councillor Edwards expressed our views perfectly adequately and fully support it. And the Labour group discussed this motion last week, and we were all supportive of obviously keeping West Bridgeford within Rushcliffe, with no shadow of a doubt. For my own view, I wasn't actually clear what the purpose of the motion coming tonight was, and I expressed that in the group, but we were still fully supportive of the motion. But I really have found many of the comments and statements made by the leader offensive, and many of them actually were inaccurate, and they were wholly unnecessary, because without a doubt, I would say everyone in this room is supportive of the thrust of this motion. There was no need whatsoever to stand up and slag off the City Council, which he has done in that vein. It's just not acceptable, and it wasn't appropriate, and it's not needed. And I think it's counterproductive. I hope some of those comments are minuted, and I hope some of the residents of West Bridgeford read them, because there are certainly some people who do live in West Bridgeford who actually might wish to be part of the city. I'm not saying there's a lot, but they may well be out there. And I don't think that those comments were in any way needed in terms of supporting this motion. And I have to say I was extremely disappointed with some of the things said today and the level of the debate, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one or two of the comments has just prompted me to remember a few things. Councillor Cooper was talking about the City Ground and Trent Bridge, and at various civic functions over the years, Councillor Collins has always claimed that Trent Bridge Cricket Ground and Nottingham Forest is part of the city. So, you know, these claims have been going on for quite a long time. But let's just clear up a few misunderstandings, because the first part of the motion is talking about the City Council petitioning the government, and people have made comments about whole districts. That won't happen, because in order for the City Council to be successful in their aspiration, they have to request a boundary review. And a boundary review would look at, clues in the name, their boundaries, and therefore it wouldn't be on whole districts. Interestingly, I heard a senior City Council officer at a recent meeting say Rushcliffe is an area of wealth with pockets of deprivation, whereas the city is an area of deprivation with pockets of wealth. So Councillor Robinson, in his comments, which I support, was talking about partly about commercialisation, and he was talking about going into the city, and it's amazing the amount of occupancy or low level of occupancy of retail units. A lot of empty shops, you know, on the way to becoming a ghost city. If it wasn't for political meetings or reasons to go and talk and have council meetings, I haven't been into the city myself for so many years I can't remember, because there's nothing to attract you into the city. So the aspiration of the City Council, by virtue of their aspiration, is, well, let's make West Bridgeford the same as the city. Now, I don't think that the people of West Bridgeford want to be heading towards a ghost city like the city is. The people of West Bridgeford like it as it is because it is a nice place to live and because of the lifestyle. So there's absolutely no way that we should be supporting anything that the City Council does to hijack and make a land grab of West Bridgeford. So please don't talk about different areas. We are talking about the city making a land grab for West Bridgeford, and I'm glad to hear that all the opposition parties actually support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, would you like to respond, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry if Councillor Plant is offended. I didn't actually make any opinions in myself. I talked about facts. And I'm sorry if facts are painful, because I think West Bridgeford residents need to know facts. When I am challenged about the City Council's aspirations for West Bridgeford, do I just say, oh, walk away, just say it for yourself? These are facts. This is what this council chamber is about. Debate and putting facts out there of what is the city today. What is the offering to West Bridgeford? And I thank Councillor Clark for putting that about West Bridgeford, what it would look like under a city council umbrella. I say, some people might actually want that. I have been sitting there, as your comrades on the Labour Party have been telling me, when they're on Central Avenue, this will be part of the city in next year or the year after. And I'm sure they'd be delighted to do that. But surely it is important, and you should recognise it's actually good debate to put facts out there. The figures I actually gave you aren't opinions. They're not something I've read in Tory Monthly. They're actually facts that are put out there in the press. And the biggest problem is there is absolutely no scrutiny in the City Council. There's no debate because of the politics over there. And that's why it's arrived. And that actually might answer Councillor Melander why there's this deprivation and why it is so badly run, because there isn't the challenge. And I'm delighted as opposition parties you do challenge us to make sure that Rushcliffe is the very best. And I said to Councillor Collins, perhaps you should have some opposition, because that's what makes Rushcliffe the very best and why we're very proud of West Bridgeford. Just picking up the comments, Councillor Edwards, about press releases. You're quite right, they are looking at complete districts, but as Councillor Clark said, they're also looking at a boundary review. Hence why they've got the engagement to look at West Bridgeford. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think they're spending £20,000 of taxpayers' money, again, to look at West Bridgeford? For fun? Do you think John Collins has nothing else to do? Of course not. It's actually here now, reality. That's why it's happening right now. It's all right going back to 1952 in the olden days of what it was, etc. I'm talking about 2018 of what residents of West Bridgeford are asking us as councillors. What are our thoughts? Yeah, how are we representing? Councillor Jones talked about a voice. This is a voice. This is the voice of West Bridgeford. This is the voice that's been put out there and the message given to Councillor Collins. That's been recorded, put into the press. That is the voice of West Bridgeford. Through the elected councillors, through the West Bridgeford Growth Board, there is a big voice there. Whether you choose to engage with that, it's entirely up to you. But I believe very firmly that Bridgeford has a great voice. And it has a lot to say. Because it's one of the best places anywhere to live. And as while I'm leader of this council, I want to make sure it continues to be that way. That we invest, we regenerate and we challenge ourselves. And anybody that experiences West Bridgeford and then goes into the city can make their own judgments, can't they, in terms of how it looks. So, in summary, Madam Mayor, I'm not making any apologies for bringing this motion, because I said right at the start, and I don't understand why the Labour Party say, why is this motion coming up there? Well, it's all in the press, questions are being asked. Are we just silent? Do you expect people just to say, oh, I'm not sure what Rushcliffe think about it? How can you say? Why are they bringing in this motion? I think this motion is here tonight, timely and absolutely right. And the last thing I'll say, it is absolutely nothing to do with this chamber, about the reorganisation plans, to do with the county, etc. That's what this motion is not about. This is about the City Council with the land grab for West Bridgeford and sending the message that I hope that you will support to the City Council so they absolutely understand where we stand on this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We move to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please show.
Sympathetic.
That's unanimous.
That's unanimous again.
No waste of time now.
Item 11, questions under standing order number 11, brackets 2. Councillor Edwards, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try and make this question as long as possible in the absence of any others on the agenda. It's a question to Councillor Moore.
I'm sorry I have to interrupt you again. Is this a point of order?
It is. I would just like to state that although, could it be recorded that although we support the motion, do not support the comments made? And I would like to
The motion's gone, thank you. Please continue, Councillor
Makes it longer.
Edwards, sorry.
Yes, it's me.
Yes.
Yeah. To Councillor Moore. What progress has been made on 3 projects totalling £100,000 in this year's capital programme regarding improvements to the Sports Pavilion and the Sir Julian Kahn Pavilion in West Park, West Bridgford, that were all due to commence in June?
Thank you. Councillor Moore, please.
I'll give you a fairly short answer, Councillor Edwards. As you are fully aware, Councillor Edwards, this is work in progress and is being reviewed in line with other priorities.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Edwards?
Yes, thank you. Will the work be completed by the end of this financial year, in other words, in this capital programme?
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Always been a fallacy in my mind that if you have a budget, you've got to spend it by the end of the year. This is a Conservative run council when we want value for money. The work will be completed, will be started, but it depends what comes out of the member group, which you're a part of, and what's put forward to the budget workshops. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the business for the evening. However, can I at this point wish you all a very happy Christmas, full of the joys of the season, and a reminder that there's mince pies or cakes if you don't like mince pies and other refreshments available if you join me after the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you.